You're listening to Veterans for Recovery, a podcast that unpacks all things recovery within our extended military family. Join your host, retired Major John Donovan, a noted author, lecturer, and person in long-term recovery from substance use disorder, as he and his guests will break down current trending topics and research, along with all things recovery related to increasing recovery resilience and recovery capital within our veteran and service member communities. Now here's your host, Major John Donovan.
Hey, good day, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Veterans for Recovery. This is a podcast that looks at all things pertaining to our veterans, service members, and their family members who are in recovery or seeking recovery. I'm John Donovan, a retired major of the U.S. Army, and I'm a person in long-term recovery. With me today is my guest, Jeff Meierhofer. Today, Jeff and I will explore what recovery means and how it impacts our lives. Jeff, welcome to the show today, and thank you so much for being with us.
It's great to be part of this. I'm interested after listening to some of the other podcasts. I'm excited to be here.
Outstanding. Well, let's get right into it. Jeff, you and I go back to the fourth grade. My first memory of you was as a great protector. I was about to get my ass kicked, and I ran into the bathroom because I knew you were there, and a couple of bullies were hot on my tail, and you prevented them from giving me a swirly. And since then, we've become fast friends and have been friends ever since. Tell our audience a little bit about your background, your education, your experiences, your profession, and then a little bit of your recovery journey.
Great. Well, I kind of just recall that day a little bit, but I probably have a different slant on it than you do. I might have been the one chasing you. I'm not sure. But no, I've always appreciated the friendship, and you don't always get in life the connection to people for this many years. So I'm grateful for that. And yeah, my education, came from the public school system in Minnesota. I've never been able to get rid of the quality accent, although I tried to drink it away at times. But so through St. Cloud State on to Northern Arizona University, I have a degree in speech comm, and which I don't know what that means exactly. And then went on to do a variety of different jobs, but I always was an entrepreneur at heart. My father was an entrepreneur, and so eventually started my own business in the late 90s, and that was a mortgage company, and was able to bring in good people along the way, and I worked with my lovely wife Barbara through that, and wound up selling the company a few years ago. So now I'm just been on doing my own thing for the past 3 years, trying to stay connected to people and stay connected to people around the globe.
So you had some really banner years in the real estate market, and then we had the 2008 housing crisis. How did you come through that?
Well, I guess if people were around and paying attention during that time, they would recognize the severity of it. When we look back, it's just another blip, on the historical train. But when you're self-employed and you own a business that's reliant upon the lending industry, I will just say that 2 years of savings were basically used to keep the ship afloat in hopes of better days, and kind of puts you in perspective. You really have to at that point, and I do remember Barb and I talking about it, thinking, what, these are tough times, but we're not the only people that are experiencing this. There's people who've been through much worse than we have. And so we need to be grateful for those things that we have and stay connected to that. And we survived through it, but by using a lot of savings, and had to rebuild in 2010 through 2020.
So you really pulled on a lot of resiliency. You really used the power of your relationship with your significant other, Barb. There sounds like there's some kind of spiritual aspects there, and an idea of hope that things are bad right now, but they're going to get better, and staying true to your path and your mission. Does that resonate at all for you?
Yeah, I mean, I maybe you were able to put it in perspective better than I was, because when you're in the midst of something, you're just doing the best that you can and trying to stay connected to the moment and trying to, keep your spirit forefront. So yeah, I mean, I think that's probably the path that worked for us. And as much as, at critical times in life, you can have a thought of like, what, maybe this would be better if I wasn't recovering. Those, if any of that happened, it really wasn't much because we have a strong relationship. We had a strong relationship with friends and family. And I think that really kept us centered enough to say, as you might think, this too shall pass. And indeed, it actually did.
Well, I think that's a great segue into this generic topic of recovery because what you're talking about really is recovery capital, a recovery mindset, an idea that, I've been to hell and back, and whatever life throws at me, I can get through it because I've dealt with some of the worst body blows that life can deal. That is dealing with a substance use disorder, alcoholism, addiction. Would you talk us through a little bit of your recovery journey?
Absolutely. It's, sometimes it's really, I think, important to look back without trying to generate the same energy that some of those things came from. And I guess I would just say, I don't want to beat the drum of bad things of, family abuse and of, just the crazy things that we all have our story to tell, but I try not to dwell on that. Although I was drinking heavily by the time I was in sixth grade, you and I experienced some of that together. And I think the recovery really took place as I was able to look around me and see what was happening in people in my family and other people. And so my recovery journey really started when I was 19. And, I think most people that are staying on the recovery path have a point in time where they say, that was my, I call it moment of clarity, as you might say, or whatever. And mine was when I was 20 and I was hitchhiking from Yellowstone National Park back to St. Cloud, Minnesota to go back to school and smoking and drinking with somebody, a couple guys in a vehicle. And they dropped me off on the top of the overpass at 9:30 at night. And it was at that moment I recognized that, that just wasn't the path that I wanted to continue on. And that for me has been fortunate to be sober for a long time and be on the path to recovery. So did go to some meetings without being long-winded, went to AA, started there, went through some other paths with other people when they were suffering along the way, which really kept me centered, and have reached out to quite a few people kind of I'm maybe not like you, but known a little bit in my community as somebody that people could come to just because I wasn't preaching, but I was living it. And I think of all the things that, for me that have been important is living recovery, but in a gentle and spiritual way, trying to stay on love, peace, and joy, and not trying to always harbor up all the old memories. Albeit they're there, I try not to beat that drum of the old memories and just stay on, the good quality pieces of life.
I love that. And your moment of clarity, you're sitting on this overpass and literally and metaphorically going nowhere fast. And realize that, hey, I've got to do something different. I've got to change my direction here, lest I just keep repeating the lessons of the past and lessons from potentially your family background. And I love your focus on forward looking, on recovery, that recovery isn't backward looking, it's forward looking, and being available, living your recovery in a sense of people know it, they see it, and they are drawn to that message more than going out and apostatizing and beating the drum of recovery. You
Yeah.
mentioned your wife, Barb, whom I know very well, met Barb when you guys were dating in your early 20s. Barb had an interesting background in that she was a registered nurse, an RN, and she got involved in a, correct me if I'm wrong, traveling nurses program.
Yeah. She was, after a year of having experience, that's a pretty common practice for people that want to experience other things outside their hometown. And so the travel nurse project really allowed us to go to a lot of different states to live for 3 to 6 months and then to really do what our true joy is, which is to travel, see different things, meet new people, and experience it that way. So yeah, we did travel nurse assignments for 5 years. We were on the road, literally. I'm on recovery on the road, and she's just doing her own thing, because I think a lot of us have spouses that are able to do their own thing without being, they're part of the recovery, but they're not in it, so to speak. And so, yeah, so we traveled to a lot of different places, which then led us to a great deal of international travel as we got into our 30s.
Well, and I have lived vicariously through your travels. I have followed you extensively, creeping on social media with your travels, and then your annual newsletter that comes out every December about where you've gone. And one of the things that I just find incredibly heartwarming, intriguing, that I'd like to highlight is your work internationally with individuals who are less fortunate than you and I. They are sight impaired, they have seeing difficulties, and you and Barb have really brought the gift of sight to them. Could you kind of unpackage that for our listeners?
Yeah, well, we had an opportunity to be part of a mission trip to Cambodia about 12, 13 years ago. And through doing so, we learned about restoringvision.org, which is a company, actually a 501c3, that actually brings in glasses from different sources and then repackages them and then sells them very inexpensively. They're almost all primarily reading glasses, but we felt that we could help people from ages of 40 to on up, no age limit, but through doing reading glasses. And I would suspect that a lot of your listeners are, some of them anyway, are 40 plus and either have a pair of 1.25s or 2.5s or something in their arsenal of glasses everywhere. So yeah, I mean, to unpackage that, I would just say we learned about it, and then we just took it on our own to be able to purchase the glasses. And sometimes we've had people that have just donated some money for travel of the glasses, not of us, but travel of the glasses, because that's actually kind of the thing. You got to get things through customs. We've done it in Egypt and Morocco and Peru and, Cambodia, Indonesia, all over the world, I guess 15 countries now, where we bring the glasses, as many as 600 pairs of reading glasses with us, tote those things around, pull them through airports, different places, and we're able to really connect, which I think is part of my recovery, is to be able to really connect to people that are less fortunate in a natural setting. I don't have any agenda. They are just there to be helped, and able to provide something for them to be able to sew better, fix an outboard motor if they're, a guide out in the islands of Indonesia, or to fix a prayer wheel on a prayer wheel in Bhutan. It just came in all shapes and sizes. And the immediate need and the immediate joy, which I think is really what it's all about, is the joy that they get from getting the glasses, has just been outstanding for us as a couple. And we've turned it on to a lot of other people. That's been a big part of it, is other people come with us, other people from that we're traveling with. Now all of a sudden they're involved, and they're, kind of continuing to carry the torch to different places as well. So it's really been an eye-opening experience for us.
Pun intended.
Yeah, sure.
So let's delve a little deeper into this. I think I saw a picture online, social media, and you were handing, or rather, you were holding up a standard eye chart. And there was somebody 10 paces from you, and it looked, I was looking at the eye chart, so their back was to me, but I assumed that they were going through and reading in their native tongue or English, the big E and then the letters underneath. And I assumed that you had given them a pair of reading glasses and that they were now successfully reading this chart. Is that a fair summation of one of your recent trips?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how much time we have today, but I could go on and on about just the sheer joy of something like that. And to make that example, the last trip when we were in Rwanda here in October, we didn't realize the need was that great, but I might have been, the picture that you saw was of the gentleman who, he got his glasses, and he was probably in his 50s. He hasn't been able to read for years. A lot of these people, some are reading different scriptures from different religions, but in this case, it was a Bible, and he was able to just pick up his glasses and for the first time in probably years, be able to clearly see the letters and read.
Oh my,
And it's yeah, in some cases, a small pair of glasses can be so moving because you recognize what people are missing by not having that, just the reading glasses to be able to have the sight. Sounds simple to us in the US, maybe more the Western world, to be able to go buy a pair of reading glasses. But when you have, as an example, in Rwanda, the equivalency of, they're very dear there. So about $15 US per set of reading glasses. And so consequently, these people to be able to get a free pair of reading glasses just means a lot to them. And it's changed a lot of the way they were able to do their daily activities.
oh, that's incredible. That is incredible. God bless you for that work and I'd say gift of recovery, because you understand that kind of to keep this thing, we need to give it away. And giving it away can manifest itself in so many areas, and yours just happens to be international travel coupled with this incredible mission of helping people to see. Jeff, you also do some incredible work with veterans and veterans who are on a recovery journey. I know you and your significant other, Barb, kind of co-own with some other people a houseboat on Lake Powell. And every year you have veterans out for a week of fishing and relaxation. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, it's, that fishing is a passion of mine, and also Barb's at this point. Probably dragged her into that kicking and screaming, but now she's more adept in some ways than I am. But the organization is Operation Pay It Forward. It's a organization that was started here in Utah, well, partially Texas, but the primary drivers are here in Utah and Idaho at this point. And Operation Pay It Forward's concept was, there are men and women out there that are suffering, and they have varying degrees of recovery that they need to do. Some of them drugs and alcohol, some of them just recovery, and from what they've seen and experienced. And so their concept is to bring in people, show them the outdoors, whether that's hunting, golfing, fishing, you could name it, just about anything, and to get individuals maybe off their couch or out of their basement to be able to go outside and experience the camaraderie in a different way with other veterans. So they organize these trips. They ask people like us and other groups to be able to help them to get there, to kind of experience something that's beyond what they are doing each day. And so our mission was basically, we were asked to bring 4 to 6 veterans on the houseboat for 5 days. And the first time we did it, we had no idea what we were getting ourselves into. But we had talked about it ahead of time, and we said, we're not here to fix people. We're here to provide an environment for them to be able to look inside themselves and see that there's something else out there, other than just being in their house and being alone, that they can be, with others. And there's some moving stories through doing that, some crazy experiences of a guy, 2 guys talking, because we oftentimes would leave them to be able to, men and women, but we would leave them to talk amongst themselves instead of being in with them unless they needed us. And during them, we were fishing during the day, we're chatting it up and learning of their experiences. But each evening, we would almost always leave them alone so they could just kind of go through and, as you call it, unpackage their day or their lives or what what things have happened to them. And we had guys that were talking, and they go through a series of talking. They're like, "Oh my gosh, you were riding on my chopper in Afghanistan." One guy is from totally different units, but through talking about it, we've had individuals that things were really, really rough for them. And they, fishing was one of their outlets when they were a kid, but never had a chance to do it again because of socioeconomic, situations. And they came on the boat, and now they're back out fishing, got themselves a little boat, and they're outside and they're taking their kids fishing and kind of doing, I think, what you've experienced over time in recovery is that it's not just about, alcohol or drugs. It's about all the other things that come along with it to recover, or be in recovery and enjoying the moment. So yeah, so we've taken guys and gals out, and we've had some really personal experiences that, you kind of get choked up by hearing their stories and the successes. And we stay in touch with some of them. We go to Arizona, we'll go out to lunch with a couple of them, and it's been just a really sound and amazing relationships that we've developed with some of these individuals. It's been really rewarding for us, and I hate to say that in a way, because it's really about the veterans and about their ability to experience something else. But on the flip side of that, it's a two-way street, and we were just rewarded in many ways through opening up our time and our souls to these groups of individuals.
Well, that is so incredible, Jeff. And thank you for what you're doing on behalf of the veteran community. And that work is so rewarding. And don't apologize, because again, I think we keep the best parts of ourselves by giving them away. Your work with helping those who are sight impaired to see, those who are potentially dealing with some of the aftermaths of war, some of their deployment experiences, and giving them a safe place to talk about that, to be comfortable, relaxed, and then, of course, on an amazing houseboat on a beautiful lake, doing some fishing, just what the doctor ordered. Thank you for what you're doing on behalf of our veteran community. Jeff, we just got a couple of minutes left. What can you tell us if there's any of our listeners who are listening about that program going, wow, I would really like to get in touch with that. I'd like to do that myself. How can they find out more about this program?
Well, okay, so you will find it by Operation Pay It Forward. Mike Vanderhoof and Eric Pauley are two of the primary board members. I'm happy to receive a text if it's okay. So if I give my phone number on this,
Well, let's
John?
just send them to the website.
Yeah, Operation Pay It Forward. It'll take them right there, and I could look it up. I mean, for me, it's probably just I don't know the exact website off the top of my head, but yeah, I mean, I think if there are individuals out there that fits what they'd like to do, they're not limited in their geography. I think part of without being long-winded about it, I think part of their concept that is so amazing to me is they have their ambassador program, which means they ask individuals that have been on their trips to then become a trip leader. So that way they have ambassadors. So the individuals that have been out, that then they can bring other people, go out into the community and say, hey, you know what? Let's talk about going golfing. And they can be an ambassador. So it's a self-perpetuating group. It's almost 100% of any funds that are brought in from the fundraisers that they do goes directly to help people. There's not a top heavy administration or anything like that. So it's an amazing organization. I wouldn't have been part of it had I not known one of the individuals, but I knew him, and that's how things work in life, right? You find those connections. But bottom line is, I can vouch for Operation Paid Forward. They do some great work.
Operation Pay It Forward. And like I tell my friends, there's this secret government search engine out there called Google. And if you just put Operation Pay It Forward into your browser, hit enter, I'm sure you'll be directed to the correct website. Jeff, it has been an incredible half hour. I'm amazed that it's already gone by. Final thoughts for our listeners.
I think that we all have an opportunity each day to connect with gratitude. And I think gratitude greases the skids of life. I'm not saying gratitude comparing our stuff to other people's. I'm just saying that internal sense that you get with the grace that has been bestowed upon us. And I would say that all of us are connected, and that, if things are hinky for you, there are sources and people out there that are waiting to lend a hand. And I think that for me, I had that experience where people lent a hand to me. And I'm sure if people are in need, they'll find the right source to help them.
Well said indeed. And as we often say in the recovery circles, if I have an attitude of gratitude, well, what follows from that is I'll behave gratefully. And behaving gratefully is getting involved in the programs like you've described today, especially. Operation Pay It Forward. So once more, Jeff, thank you for being with us today.
Thanks for doing what you do, John. This is, as we've evolved our relationship over our lives, I really, I think this is fantastic, the direction that you're going with this. And I look forward to listening to more of the podcast as they become available.
Well, outstanding. Thank you. And again, thank you for being with us and sharing with us today. It was a fascinating conversation. To our listeners, thank you for spending a little time with us to learn more about Veterans for Recovery. This has been a podcast of the Coming Home Well Network. Until next time, be well, think well, and do well. This is Major John Donovan signing off.
You've been listening to Veterans for Recovery, a Coming Home Well podcast. We value your feedback. Please be sure to leave a review. Share and download this episode. We thank our veterans and service members for your service to our country. We thank our friends and families for their support. And thank you for listening to Veterans for Recovery.